Since the war in Iran began, investors have unloaded billions of dollars from the Japanese stock market. As the economy reels, doubts are emerging about Japan's key security ally.
In a world of great uncertainties, I think there are two things that remain constant. One is about growing concern about the United States and its engagement as an Indo-Pacific power and its capabilities, especially when it's being torn and focused much more on the Middle East and the Western Hemisphere, to what extent it can actually provide the traditional security guarantees in the Indo-Pacific. So that's one. The other certainty is that Chinese ambitions in the Indo-Pacific, especially on the security front, have not changed.
President Trump has also not backed Prime Minister Sanae Takaichi on the issue of economic pressure from China.
It indicates to the Chinese government, unfortunately, that the United States in this moment is privileging the stability in its ties with China over its willingness to step up and defend an ally.
All this has surprised some analysts because President Trump's first meeting with Prime Minister Takaichi in October 2025 was a big success.
This woman is a winner, so, we've become very close friends all of a sudden. The cherished alliance between the United States and Japan is one of the most remarkable relationships in the entire world. Really, there's never been anything like it.
Trump applauded Takaichi's pledge to boost Japan's defense spending. The two signed new agreements covering trade and critical minerals. This was part of a $550 billion deal that included shipbuilding contracts and increased imports of U.S. soybeans, gas, and pickup trucks to Japan. The Trump administration had also for months called on allies to do more in deterring a possible Taiwan contingency.
President Trump has also said that Communist China will not invade Taiwan on his watch. So our goal is to prevent war. And we will do this with a strong shield of deterrence forged together with you, America's great allies and defense partners. Together, we will show what it means to execute peace through strength.
Responding to these calls, the Japanese self-defense forces stepped up military exercises with the United States. Joint exercise Iron Fist in 2025, for example, had the largest troop contingent from both sides since the drills began in 2005.
そのことにより、トランプ大統領と共に世界で最も偉大な同盟になった日米同盟をさらなる高みに引き上げてまいります。
About a week later, Prime Minister Sanae Takaichi said China's use of force against Taiwan could constitute a survival-threatening situation for Japan. And in that situation, Japan would be legally entitled to mobilize its troops. The statement triggered a crisis with China.
日本右翼势力正极力突破和平宪法的束缚，在强军控武的道路上越走越远。
As China banned some rare earth exports and canceled flights to Japan, Washington's top brass kept silent. Even when the two leaders met in March, Trump did not discuss the China-Japan row during this session with journalists. When asked by reporters about pressure that Japan was facing from China, this is what he said.
Well, I'll be going to China very quickly, but I think I'd really like to have the Prime Minister talk about China because I know they have a little bit of an edgy relationship, and I'd just like to know where it stands, how you're doing with China, so please.
で、日本はいつも中国に対してオープンです。会話はオープンにしています。
How was Trump's silence on the Japan-China row received in Tokyo?
Not shocking, but then the disappointment that because the Japanese bureaucracies actually tried to get the reassurance from the United States, but then it didn't really go well.
certainly in the Japanese media and amongst politicians as well, there has been a lot of concern and vocal opposition to the United States for really not stepping up and not providing that support that Japan could have, still could use even to this day when it comes to pushing back against Chinese economic coercion, which continues.
The United States has been nearly silent on this row between China and Japan, when on a bipartisan basis and under any previous leadership, we would have expected the United States to step up and publicly support its Japanese ally and behind the scenes use its channel with China to put pressure on Beijing to cease its coercion of Tokyo. We have seen none of that. As someone who used to have the privilege of working in the White House, I can tell you that had this happened when I was serving in government, I would have made recommendations to the National Security Advisor and to the president that the Secretary of the State and eventually the president make statements on Japan's behalf, that the United States convene a meeting of G7 leaders to put out a collective statement condemning China's use of economic coercion and in support of Japan.
Like Canada, India, Germany, and other G7 nations, America's closest ally in East Asia must now think of ways to manage the risk arising from shifting U.S. policies. One way is greater self-reliance in defense. Takaichi's cabinet in January approved a record defense budget plan. It exceeds $58 billion for the coming year and aims to fortify its strike-back capability and coastal defense. After World War II, nuclear weapons were considered a taboo topic. Not anymore, as Japan now considers options.
The discussion right now that is happening is about nuclear sharing. Nuclear sharing insofar as U.S. nuclear weapons being able to be hosted in the U.S. bases on Japanese soil. Right now that's banned. The current prime minister is opposed to this, but there is greater momentum even within her own party to explore this possibility about ensuring that there are nuclear capabilities or support of nuclear capabilities on Japanese soil. And this is a very big game changer for Japan.
Japan has also been stepping up defense engagements with other countries like Australia. In December 2025, the two countries' defense ministers met and presented a united front on issues in the Indo-Pacific.
We do not want to see any change to the status quo across the Taiwan Straits. In general terms, Minister Koizumi and I spoke about the way in which Australia and Japan can work together to assert the rules-based order and provide for the peace and stability of the Indo-Pacific.
In January 2026, Japan signed a defense pact with the Philippines as the two countries face increasing pressure from China.
Japan is a vital strategic partner of the Philippines, and our relationship will continue to be bound by shared values of democracy, respect for the rule of law, and a commitment to peace, stability, and prosperity in our region.
We all thought that NATO was a rock-solid organization, and we've seen cracks in that, in recent months. So Japan must be looking at that and making plans.
First thing I need to probably say is that the U.S. Japan alliance is going to be the core of the Japan's security and diplomacy. But that said, as you mentioned, the current situation might not be providing a great kind of environment where they could actually smoothly strengthen the tie with the United States. So what Japan is actually trying to do is diversifying its kind of security ties with the other countries like the Australia, Philippines, other kind of European countries, including the United Kingdom and France, and also they are trying to reach out to India, even though it might be a little bit difficult because India has its own kind of foreign policy. It's not like a replacement, but then they could get the diplomatic support. They could also get some kind of like military or defense asset or the technology transfer, so that I think they try to kind of reduce their dependence on the United States.
Japan has also expanded its Official Security Assistance Scheme, or OSA, which provides military assistance across Asia. Ms. Takaishi's cabinet has allocated over $100 million for the OSA in 2026.
So if we step back, Japan has been, especially in Southeast Asia, very successful when it came to ODA, Overseas Development Assistance, and that's the traditional grant provision to enhance the economic growth of emerging economies. And so the OSA will provide grants to key countries, which are especially focused on countries like Malaysia and the Philippines, to enhance their capabilities when it comes to security infrastructure, like port development, radar systems development, and the like.
The whole purpose is to empower them to maintain the sub-regional the balance of power. Chinese the power projection is increasing. China has more presence in South China Sea and also the Indian Ocean, so that by creating or providing this of military asset, they could actually at least complicate the strategic calculation of China.
All across Asia's capitals, new trade routes are being formed. New defense collaborations are inked as governments try to find their way forward in a new world order.
This is the best moment for China, because China, without firing a single shot, has made it believable for everyone in the world that the United States is not a real defender of freedom, a defender of peace, a defender of sovereignty and territorial integrity of other countries.
This is going to be a world in which the United States still has some incredible advantages, and in areas like critical technology, and in particular artificial intelligence, may have even more advantages than we had in the past. But we cannot take for granted the ability to step back into the same river that we left, nor would it be prudent to simply oppose President Trump's policies or try to create alternatives to them. Instead, it's incumbent upon policymakers and analysts to think about what the United States can do in this transformed world in a new international order that is just beginning now.